Birds don't. They're not divided. The birds represent the stars in the sky. They fly. They're heavenly. They're not cut in two. They're not divided. The pieces are divided. They're cut in two. One's placed on one side, one's placed on the other. God passes between them. Abraham sleeping. What he wants Abraham to see is that his seed will be divided between a natural seed of the sand of the sea, and it will be divided between those who are of Abraham but not of Abraham. Romans chapter 9. Not everyone born of Abraham is of Abraham. Only those that have faith. Now, Jews immediately would take offense to that. And Paul knew that. That's why he says that in Romans 9. If you're a Jew, you're a child of Abraham, you're included in the covenant. Paul says not so. Romans 9, that's what he says. I wish, he says, that all would be included in it. I wish that they would be. I would give my own life, he says, that they could be. But he knew the reality that they weren't, that Israel was divided. The stone had become a rock of offense and a stone of stumbling for Israel. There was a stupor put upon them that they would be blinded and they would reject Christ. They would crucify him. Some Jews would believe. They would be the remnant. They would be the one on the other side. They would receive by faith their Messiah. They were counted in as sons of Abraham in the faith. The other are natural Abraham, but they're of their father, the devil. Jesus tells that to them. These are born of Abraham. He says, you're of your father, the devil. Did you understand that to somebody? Why did he say that? Because they didn't believe he was from God. So God was showing Abraham here what is going to happen. And then he takes it even further. And we know the law comes with Moses when after 430 years of great terror and darkness where they were enslaved in Egypt. And they're crying out to God night and day. The bricks and the mortars only compile and get more and more. You can never work good enough for Pharaoh. Right? God has to come in and sovereignly deliver you, and he does that. But he's also showing Abraham, I'm way ahead of myself on my notes, but he's showing Abraham, I think you asked that question last week, we were talking about this. Abraham, this messes people up. Abraham is the father of the three world's largest religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. But only those of faith are of Abraham. He, through his loins, gave birth to Ishmael, which became the father of all the Mohammedans and the Arabs and everyone, which is now Islam. And the Jews. So there's the natural seed, sand of the ground. But the heavenly stars, the seed of the sky, those are the birds, they fly. That's you and I. That's the faith. You got a question? You're in Christ. You're in Christ. Don't worry about it. You're of Abraham. Because, listen, and this is where I'm going. He was a heathen. He was not a Jew. See, this is where we get all messed up. Abraham's the father of the Jews. He wasn't Jewish. Now, we always say, wait a minute. No, Abraham was not Jewish. He was from Ur of the Chaldeans. He was a heathen. Jews, Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel, they became Jews. They were just his descendants. The sand of the sea, the earthly, the stars of the sky, the heavenly. You have the natural seed, you have the spiritual seed. You have the divided carcass. On the ground, you have the birds that aren't divided, they fly. How can you see that? And so yeah, Abraham, let me say this too, because I never really seen it until now. When I said that only God spoke to Abraham, he was a friend of God. He's the only person having a conversation with God in the entire world at this time. I know that's hard for us to see. Faith was being established in the mustard seed, in one man. Right? And all of this would happen. Abraham, other than, Christ, is the most significant human on the planet that has ever lived, because faith comes, he's the father of the faith. Everything that you and I are a part of is always inextricably linked to Abraham. Our Christian faith is linked to Abraham. We don't think of that, but it is. All through the Gospels, all through, how many times is Abraham mentioned? It's a name you can't get around. Right? That's why he represents faith. Not of Abraham. He wasn't worthy. God chose a heathen, gathered him in, and caused him to be something that he wasn't. And that's always the plan of God. He uses those things that you would never think he could use. So, okay, go ahead and go to the next one. The birth of Isaac. This is huge. Resurrection, right? This is where we're at. We're talking about some resurrection. God always does this with the promise. Let me put this away. Do this every time. I think I'm going to stop printing my own notes. I think I'm just going to use your guys' I'll keep going. I'm going to get them to those guys over there, and they'll use them. Stop working for me. So, Isaac, birth of Isaac. Abraham's faith was being steadily educated towards this high point. I want you to think about that. Our faith is always ascending. Faith is never stagnant and never dormant. Believing is faith in action. Believing is a word that is implied to be continual. Believing, something that's moving, right? So we're believing in the faith. And we're always being educated toward a high point of something. Here lies the real reason why we must wait so long till his 100-year-old and his heir. Because he's getting Abraham to look towards something. Now here is something that we must see. Death, Romans 4:19, extinction, Hebrews 11:12, must first have entered for new life